Hi, everybody. We are live, and I am here with none other than Coach Nat. Hi, Coach Nat. Nice to see you today.
Hello, hello. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. This has been kind of a long time in the making, and I'm excited for that the day is finally here. But for those of my viewers that don't know you yet, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure thing. So I'm Coach Nat, Natalie Grasso, otherwise known as the Keto Bikini Pro on Instagram, Keto Bikini Secrets on YouTube. And I'm a coach full time. I have been out of the rat race now for, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many years now, 4 or 5 years. Officially, I think I officially made the leap in the midst of the craziness in 2020. Um,
Wow.
it started making moves that way around 2018 and then finally just fully gave up on the 9 to 5 life in 2020. And that came after I got my pro card in the WBFF as a professional fitness, if you will, bikini bodybuilder. There's so many different terms for it, but basically a bikini pro. That's why I'm known as the Keto Bikini Pro. So been living this keto, carnivore, low carb, paleo life 13 or so years now, and coaching primarily the last 5, 6 years now, working primarily exclusively with women. Women these days, my age, I just turned 41, over the age of over 35, mostly 40s, 50s, 60s. So my big platform now is be the CEO of your body, own your journey, and age well. You can age backwards. Aging doesn't have to mean that we are deteriorating. We can actually get better with age. So that's the biggest thing that I like to promote: lifting weights, eating meat, and healing our bodies and living well.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. I'm excited that you said that about aging backwards. So I would like to get into that a little bit with you. But what is your approach generally to women's fitness and nutrition? Um, you said you kind of specialize in women, and I think that's super cool. But what's your approach to that, and how does that work?
Yeah, so on the nutrition side, um, I would say whole foods, animal based style of eating, way of eating, diet, if you want to call it that. And then I meet people where they are. I meet women where they are. So some women are just dipping their toe in the low carb water and they are coming from a standard American diet. That would probably be the smallest percentage of my clientele. The grand majority of the women I work with have been in the keto and or carnivore space for a long time and have not gotten the results they wanted in terms of their body composition. They're all bought in, 100% bought into keto, carnivore, low carb living, ancestral, animal based, and they've gotten a lot of health benefits. They have reversed all kinds of chronic conditions, but they still have the belly fat. They still
Okay.
have, they actually have a lot of loose skin because they've lost a lot of weight, but they never prioritized muscle building. They never prioritized protein, the kinds of things that hold on to help us hold on to muscle as we age. As I said, they're all 40s, 50s, 60s, and have either already lost a lot of muscle or didn't have it to begin with and never focused on it before. And so a lot of them come to me because of that fitness piece. So on the fitness side of it, my main approach is weight lifting, resistance training, I will say, bodybuilding style resistance training, which is designed for muscle tissue growth. So you get a lot of strength with that, but we're not focused on strength building, power lifting, Olympic lifting. We're not doing that kind of thing. We're specifically training in a way that helps you build tissue, healthy, strong muscle tissue. And with that, usually you're going to get a lot stronger as well and a lot more capable. So we pair bodybuilding style resistance training. And I say resistance because for some women, it's body weight. For others, it's bands. And for others, it's weights, anything from a set of dumbbells at home all the way up to the big boy machines at the gym. or a home setup with a barbell. A lot of my ladies have racks and barbells at home, and have built up to that, have come to me with bands, and now they're buying a rack and barbells. It's really exciting. So
Yeah.
we base nutrition with strength training, bodybuilding style. And it does amazing for people. And I just meet them where they are. So what that might look like for one woman might be 100 carbs a day. For another woman, it might be 50. For another woman, it might be 0. Anywhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is with a low carb template. What I do not do, and what I don't take on if somebody were to come to me and be interested in that, I don't do a high carb, low fat diet. That is just not going to happen around here. It's just not what's going to make us optimal.
Absolutely. I like that you talked about bands, and then working your way up. I think that's so awesome. My friend Erin works with you, and I know she just bought like a barbell and stuff and has it in her basement and stuff. And I'm like, that is awesome. I'm waiting for that video. I'm like, I want to see your setup.
Yeah, she created a cable pulley setup.
Oh my gosh.
It's so exciting to see the gyms, the home gyms expand.
Yeah.
I always feel very proud when they take that next leap.
Yeah, maybe. So my oldest son, not that I'm kicking him out anytime soon, but I'm just saying he's 18. And our house is little, right? So we've all got a bedroom and there's no extra rooms. But maybe someday if I reclaim one of those bedrooms, that's what I would like to do in there, in that space. Looking forward to being able to do that. So you talked a lot about your emphasis is putting on muscle. Can you tell me a little bit why it's so important for people, but especially women, to hold on to the muscle we've got and then put on muscle if we can, especially as we age?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yes. So the big term is sarcopenia. It is becoming more and more well known, thank goodness, these days. But aging is not the thing that makes us weak and frail and our bones weak and all of the other things that we think come along with age. It's really a loss of muscle, and that's really what sarcopenia is. Loss of muscle, and then we have a loss of vitality overall. We have a loss of stability. So the falls, when you get older and you start falling down and breaking things, our bones get brittle. So it impacts our entire health spectrum, all of our systems of our body. Muscle is not just the biceps, right? What we can see when we flex. All of our organs are made of muscle. We have smooth muscle of all the organs. So building muscle and focusing on the preservation of muscle is improving our internal as well as our external health. It gets looked at as this thing that's just a vanity thing, or bodybuilders. But the truth is, especially women need it even more, because with menopause, we tend to see a sharp decline in muscle mass and bone health. And those two things really go hand in hand. The things that you do to build muscle will also support your bone density. So you will improve your health on both regards. And those are two things that become major risk factors when we start going through menopause.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I'm 48, so I know that I'm like hitting that transition. And I recently started doing just a little bit of just with some dumbbells, a few days a week. And I know you talked about, gaining muscle, and I definitely have done that. But you're right about getting stronger, because like I can easily pick up the big cases of water or stuff like that come because I have my groceries delivered. And I used to I could do it, but I'd be like, can you get that for me? And now I'm like just picking it up. It's super cool to see that kind of translate into real life. And man, I'm stronger than I was 3 months ago,
And that is the number one signal that you are building muscle, because those two things tend to go hand in hand. If you are training consistently, you're eating enough protein, you're recovering well, and you notice yourself getting stronger, it is, the ladies in my community, we do a lot of tracking. We track all the things. We use the body composition scales and measurements and photos and all these things, right? And I always talk about, we want to track as many different variables as we can, so we are not just always looking at the scale to tell us if we're making progress. But especially when you want to lose body fat, which most women are interested in the body fat loss. But the truth is, you can actually completely change the look of your body without losing any body fat if all you do is put on muscle. So now you're shifting that body composition and you're making yourself have a lower body fat percentage because you've increased your lean mass and you look leaner, you look slimmer, you look more fit because you've got muscle there. Now, if you're doing both, the reason I mentioned that is that you might see the scale going down. And that's what most of the time the women want to see. But that's not going to tell you whether or not you're building muscle, because muscle is going to put weight on. So if you're noticing, oh, the scale's not changing, how do I know if I'm really putting on muscle? That's strength. You know, are you better at other things in your life? Can you put, I just traveled. Can you put your suitcase up in the overhead compartment without a problem? Are you able to lift things over your head, right? This is what Coach Bronson's big functional fitness, right? You notice it in your day-to-day life. The weight training supports everything else you're doing in life. And you just start to notice that things get easier. And that's just a small, not really small. It's a big way of knowing, hey, you know what? I've got to be building some muscle here because I'm noticeably stronger.
Yeah, that's you mentioned tracking. I'll jump down to that. You already touched on a little bit, but yeah, just so the best way to track your progress, you're saying is, I mean, not so much the weight on the scale, but you want to talk a little bit about that. What is it, like a body impedance scale? Do you take measurements? Like what's the best ways to track progress?
Yeah, we do it all. I recommend weighing daily. This is a thing that so many people are afraid to do. And we notice in the keto and carnivore space, I'm always seeing, oh, don't weigh, stop weighing yourself. Wait a month, wait 6 months and then weigh yourself. I actually encourage the exact opposite. Weigh every single day so that you can get desensitized to that number on the scale. Because if we're only looking at it once a month, it now holds, no pun intended, so much weight in our minds. It holds so much value. And you could be picking the worst day of the month to weigh yourself. And the last time you weighed yourself might have been the best day of the month. And now it might look like you put on 5 pounds. But the truth is, all my ladies, one of the biggest revelations they have when they start tracking every day and they start weighing every day is, oh my gosh, there are fluctuations. It's going up and down. One day it's up, the next day it's down. Well, you can take that with a grain of salt when you start to recognize the trends. So we like to track trends. So I will have them look at their body weight every day, and we look at an average every week. So it's just taking your average over 7 days, and then the following week we can compare the average of that 7 days to the week prior. And it takes a good 3 to 4 weeks for us to really see a trend over time, because now we're looking at averages, and you get out of this terrible mindset trap of looking at your lowest day and now comparing it against your highest day and getting discouraged. So that's number one, averages.
I like that because I'm coming from a place of, oh, the scale is up, whatever, half a pound, whatever. Now I can't eat today, right? Like before I started keto carnivore a little over a year ago, that was my mindset for like my whole life. And so I'm mostly out of it now, but sometimes it's still back there, right? In the back of my mind, it's back there. It just kind of,
you are not alone. That you are so not alone. Like all the women in our generation, that was always it. It was always what the scale is doing. But the truth is, day to day, the changes in the scale day to day are not body fat and not muscle. Those things take time. Body fat you see in trends week to week. Muscle you're going to see in trends month to month. Okay. But water weight fluctuations happen all the time, all throughout the day to day, what time we ate, where we are in our digestive process. All of these things play into what we're seeing on the scale, and it's so much more than just the body composition. So I do encourage my ladies to get some sort of smart scale that will tell you more than just weight. Okay. It will at least give you an estimate of your body fat percentage, if nothing else, because we can take the body fat percentage and your total body weight, and we can look at what that would mean for pounds of muscle mass and pounds of fat mass. these things are not perfect. So I always say, usually the next question is, well, what's the best one? And, mine, I don't like what mine is telling me. So what else is a better one? And you could get stuck in the trap of trying to find the perfect bioelectrical impedance scale that's going to give you numbers you like. But really, it's not about getting numbers we like. It's about getting real numbers and then being able to see them on a day-to-day basis. So I always say, just pick one and stick with it and be consistent with it. That's what matters more, because then that way you can see apples to apples with the same scale. How is it changing? The body composition on these things is not exact because it is not measuring your tissue. It is sending electrical signals throughout your current throughout your body, and then it's getting a reading that it uses with this algorithm based on the age you put in and your gender, and it's guessing, it's estimating what your body composition is. So you'll see that fluctuate as well as your weight. Your weight will go up and down. You'll also notice the body composition, the body fat percentage might go up and down. Once again, we look at averages. So over time, we want to see if we're working toward body recomposition, which is really my specialty, losing body fat and building muscle. We want to see that body fat percentage go down.
Okay.
And it can be a small thing over time, but we'll see those trends over time. And then we also do photos and measurements weekly. So the weight and the body composition, I like to see daily so we can get those averages. And then once a week, same day, same time of day, same conditions, take your measurements and take your photos. Because the photos, after about 6 to 8 weeks, they start really showing the difference more than anything else.
Yeah, I've seen Erin's photos. Don't I know it, man? I'm like, wow, Erin. She and I are the same age, right? We're a few months apart in age.
She's eating more than she ever has before.
Yeah, I've seen her posts like I'm up in my food again, guys. I'm losing too much weight. I'm up in my food.
And it's that same thing you're talking about where women came from this, I need to eat less. I need to eat less. Mm-hmm. Oh no, this swells up. I'm not eating today, right? Let me run or do a lot of cardio to get this off. And that's what caused the situation they're in, where we find ourselves at perimenopause age under muscled. And that is not where we want to be at that time of our life.
Yeah. Would you say that if someone, because I recently went through a little bit of weight gain since going carnivore, Coach Bronson knows about this. I have started, lifting and doing some things. But I'm wondering if some of that, although my hormones could be changing, so maybe it's that, but could it be a reaction to my body's, I know I totally messed up my metabolism, and now I'm not counting every calorie. I'm not, and I'm eating lots of protein and fat. Could it be a reaction to my metabolism trying to reset itself, get better? I'm not currently gaining. It's like I gained, and then it's just like holding steady.
How much gain are we talking about?
We're talking between 15 and 20 pounds.
Okay.
Over like a 2 to 3 month period.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I would say definitely something that can happen when you are chronically under eating and then you start eating enough. Mm-hmm. Essentially, it's more than what your body needs to survive because your body has adapted. And we call this adaptive thermogenesis. It's your body regulating so that you don't die, right? It's the reason why we could survive in the wild for a long period of time before we would actually die, because our body's like, oh, wait, if we keep our metabolism, if we keep the metabolic rate up here and she's eating down here, she's going to wither away to nothing. So let's adapt. It's a beautiful thing that the body does. We don't like it when we want fat loss, but it was there to keep us alive, and it's an evolutionary thing. And so, yeah, the body's going to adapt downward. And this is one of the reasons why I really promote for women to do not keep fasting and eating less and less and less, and OMAD and 72-hour fasts and all of these things. I'm not hungry on keto carnivore, so I eat one ribeye a day and then I'm fine. I'm like, you're not going to be fine over time. We do need to teach our body to bring that metabolism back up. So I'm glad to hear that you're weight training, because that's a huge thing that will help you in that regard. But it's very likely that, yeah, your body learned to live on less and then it started getting more. And I'm sure it's also a big part of why you've had all these health improvements, right? Because it's like, oh, she's feeding us, oh, we have enough cholesterol now.
Yeah.
Okay, hormones are happy, right? All of these things. But at the same time, it is the story I hear all the time in the carnivore space. I put on weight, or I put on and took off the same 5 pounds for 5 years until I started working with you. And then we dial in the macros and they're like, I lost those 5 pounds in the first 5 weeks with you. Because another thing we're always told in the carnivore and keto space is eat more fat, just keep eating more fat. Oh, you're not losing weight? Eat more fat. So yeah, your body, it's fuel for your body. And if your body has too much of it and doesn't have anywhere to go, it's going to get stored as body fat. So it's very possible. The other thing is likely you started lifting, you probably also got some muscle gain.
Oh, I know some of it's muscle gain for sure. I know it's not all muscle, but I know some, like I said, I can pick up those big, it's like 40 water bottles. I can pick them up now and not feel like they're heavy. I mean, it's heavy, but you know what I mean? Like before I could do it. Anyways, it was difficult. Now I can do it and it's kind of easy. So I know some of it's muscle, but not all of it is, And so I was just wondering your thoughts on that, because I went through a little bit of a panic. I was panicking. And then I was like, okay, I'm not going to panic. I'm just going to, because I'm kind of like eating to satiety, right? And I'm not, and sometimes it's like, I was doing some tracking and then I look at those numbers and it's like, but if I don't eat, I'm hungry. But if I eat, I'm going to go over and you know what? I'm just going to eat, and so the weight gain did stop. And like I said, now it's stable. Thank you for your thoughts on that. I was wondering just one more question about that. Like how long does that usually last, or is it just super individualized? Like, how long is that before your body goes, okay, we're good. Like, okay, we can, start to taper back off.
It really is very individual.
Okay.
And there are things you can do to help it, right? So like what we have been doing with Erin, for example, and any of my ladies who are in a place where they're like, you know what, I'm good with where I'm at. I want to build my metabolism and I can go back if I want to cut later and really get to a new level of body composition. I can do that later, but I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm not trying to lose more body fat right now. Let's go on. What we do is a reverse diet. And that's essentially, what you've been doing here is you're eating more to teach your body to handle more, right? And when you pair that with strength training, increasing your activity level. So if you're a very sedentary individual and you start moving more, in addition to your weight training, because weight training doesn't burn a lot of calories, that's not really why we do it, but walking more, just getting more steps, getting up around and moving around during your day. Now you're increasing your body's capacity to handle more food. So when you pair those things with it, it could even out a lot faster. For other people who are, if let's say you were completely sedentary and you hadn't started lifting or anything, it was just the food. It might keep creeping up. You could find yourself 40 pounds later because the lifestyle hasn't changed. So those two things really make a big difference. And then, of course, the composition of your food makes a difference too. So a lot of the people who are let's say, 80-20, the carnivore thing of like 80% fat and keep your protein 20% or less, that could keep packing the pounds on because we don't have enough protein to really support muscle building and muscle maintenance. So those people can continue losing muscle and packing on body fat, especially if there's no strength training involved.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Credit because you've done a lot of it right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. It's finding homeostasis.
I may tackle it again, as long as I stop gaining. Like for now, I've kind of stopped gaining. It's like, all right, my body just might need a minute, and I don't want to go back to that eating 1,300 calories a day. That's what I was doing. And that was a lot for me. That was a lot when I first went keto, because I was trying to keep it to like 1,000 on a lot of days back in my, binge and restrict, but mostly restrict. I was a binger and restrictor, but mostly restricting.
Yep.
And it was bad. And I just don't want to be there anymore. Now, when I eat, like I'm eating now, it's like, I feel great. Like my energy is great. My skin is great. My hair is great. My sleep is great. It's just, I'm putting on a couple pounds and I'm like, oh, why? So, but it's like, I tackled it and it didn't really change. So, and I don't want to go back to restricting. So I just think, give my body a little more time, and maybe in a couple months or something, it'll be ready to let that go. I don't know. So we have a question from Altiora Gym. She says, what is the place of mobility and stretching in bodybuilding? Why do all bodybuilders look like they have difficulties with actually moving that huge mass of muscles to me?
Great question. And this is close to my heart because my background is dance. Way before I ever lifted weights, I was a dancer. So stretching and mobility work has always been near and dear to my heart. And I've kind of always incorporated it into what I do. But I will say a lot of bodybuilders do not. They just go into the gym, they lift, and they leave. And not all, but especially probably the big guys, they don't spend as much time on the mobility, flexibility, recovery practices, things of that nature that help to support all that muscle. So that's usually the reason for that, because you're not seeing, they're just not incorporating those things. I think it's very important to incorporate those things, particularly recovery practices, foam rolling, stretching, post-workout, sauna. I get massages regularly every month. So these kinds of things support the body's recovery, and mobility is absolutely key. I like to incorporate it into the warm-ups on my training days. So some sort of warm-up mobility work, whole body. It will help. It will absolutely help build muscle too, because we need to be able to stretch to the full range of motion. When we can get that full stretch in the muscle, then we're engaging it more and we can actually get more out of it. But yeah, I think it's something that is neglected by many, especially if you're seeing them look stiff. They're probably the ones neglecting it.
I've totally seen that look that Altiora Gym's referring to. I incorporate mine during my PE time with my students, Coach Nat. We go out there and we stretch together. That's kind of how I do it. So, but yeah, I love a good stretch, and even my students are starting to appreciate it. We'll do just some regular stretching, maybe some yoga poses, and for some balance and things. And it's like they start off and they're like, ah. And I'm like, okay, if you're saying ow, that's your fault. Remember, it's not, and we go, and then after a couple months, into the school year, they're like, oh, that feels good. Or, oh, I can do this, a lot longer, or I couldn't, touch this before and now I can, or stuff like that. Like they start to notice it. It's really cool. So that's when I do mine.
I have definitely noticed the difference when I've had stretches of time where I was short on time and I was just running. And I would have, weeks, months where, I was not prioritizing it. And I could definitely feel the difference in my body. That's been something that this year I've leaned back into more, making sure that I take care of all those things. Because, yeah, it will. And then it will impede your recovery, which then impedes your training, and it negatively impacts everything.
That's so funny because mine is like when we have a break from school and, we get our weeks off here and there. So we get our 3 weeks at Christmas and then it's like, oh, I'm not as flexible as I was because I didn't prioritize it when I was at home. At school, we work on it 4 days a week. And then at home, it's like, so yeah, that's funny.
I like to stretch morning and night. So when I get out of bed in the morning, and then when I get back, right before I'm about to get back in bed, I do some stretches at night. It's just, the dancer in me, I notice when something's not right in my body, and then I have to I have to fix it.
Yeah, it feels so good. I don't know why I don't do it more. She said that her gymnastics coach wouldn't let her leave the gym without final stretching. Only excuse is if an ambulance comes to pick you up.
Oh, hopefully that didn't happen too often.
Oh my goodness, really? Okay, so Karen Harrington, she and I have been kind of supporting each other. She's kind of started gaining weight kind of with me, right? But she says weight gainer here too, but weight is slowly going down. That's great to hear, Karen, because I know how much you were wanting that to happen. But how much muscle weight gain is possible? I only eat about 17 to 1800 in calories.
Okay. Well, I don't know the rest of your data, but I will say that's not bad. 17 to 1800 is not bad. Unless you're in Amazon, and then in which case we might want your calories a little higher. But so muscle, this is a great question because the expectations around muscle gain and fat loss tend to be very misunderstood. Muscle gain is very slow, especially for women and especially older women. Now, it can be a little bit faster if you're a brand new to training and you just start training. You can get the best gains, what we call the newbie gains, when you just start training. So within your first year to 2 years of training consistently, you can get the fastest rate of muscle gain. That rate is something like you'd be lucky to gain 1 pound of muscle mass in a month. So over your whole first year of training, you could maybe gain 12 pounds in a year of muscle.
Wow. Okay.
That's if everything is optimized. But likely it will be slower than that. So we're talking maybe half a pound a month, especially if you are a trained individual. You know, for me at this point, my rate of gain is next to nothing. You know, this is why you see athletes doing all these crazy kind of exercises that seem insane that you think you could never do, because we now have to do all this extra to get every little bit that we can of gain. But on the newbie side, you know, I would say about a pound a month would be ideal. So I generally say too, fat loss, when we're focused on fat loss, I like to see a rate of 1% of your body weight per week in loss. So if we're talking fat gain, that would look like 1 pound or so per week gain or loss is generally more fat. So if you're seeing 4 to 5 pounds of gain in a month, that's not muscle. You know, 1 pound of that might be muscle, and then 4 pounds of that might be fat. So that's kind of a good way to estimate, you know, how much am I gaining in what a period of time, and then how much of that might be muscle.
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing the math in my head for my weight gain that I just did over the last 4 or 5 months. Okay, no, that was a good explanation. So what, in your opinion, is the importance of like mental mindset, that kind of thing, in terms of all of this?
Everything. It is everything. I always say this. There's this old, used to say 80-20, right? 80% diet, 20% workouts is the 100% of health, wellness, body composition, whatever, right? It's 100% mindset, 100%, because you're not going to follow the plan with fitness or nutrition if the mindset isn't there. So 100%, this needs to be in check, on point, before anything else can. It's the one thing that will either stop us or propel us forward. And really, that's all the self-talk, the dialogue that's going on in your head. Tuning into it first, just noticing what's happening up there is number one. And then I like to say, never hold every thought hostage. Never believe a thought you think. When it comes up, hold it hostage and challenge it. Because those are the thoughts, those self-defeating thoughts that have us going off of the plan, jumping ship, trying a different program, overthinking the scale, whatever it might be. And now I'm discouraged and I might as well eat this crap anyway. Oh, what point is it in working out? It's not working. These are the kinds of things where we pretty much have to talk ourselves off the ledge all the time. That's what I like to say I do for a living. I just talk people off the ledges for a living. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some of your lives, and I've heard you, touch on that. And I think that's so important, especially for those of us who, I don't know, like I was born in the mid 70s and all of that stuff. It wasn't taught to us. Like we teach, my school now, growth mindset is huge, and all of that.
Amazing.
We teach it to the students. We, carve time out of our week every week to learn about that kind of stuff. But when I was a kid, it was none of that was, wouldn't even know what that was like, and so I spent a long time, the negative messaging, my own person, like not from the outside, like myself negatively talking to my own self, and then that just increased and kind of continued throughout my 20s, 30s, and 40s.
And it's there. It's going to be there forever. So, I think there's a lot of the time I see this, this thinking that keto or carnivore will just solve it all. Like when I go to carnivore, I'm never going to have a craving again. I'm never going to eat when I'm bored. I'm never going to eat for emotional support again. It's just going to fix it. And then it'll just be easy for me to live this lifestyle. And they're just waiting for it to become easy. And the thing is, it doesn't become easy. We just get better. If we're focused on the right thing, we just get better at overcoming difficulty. And that's actually more the goal. The goal is not to make everything easy. I like to say we don't want to live in straitjackets with padded walls.
Right.
That's what we're looking for, right? This like magic pill that will just take all the difficulty away. But the truth is then we're just limiting our lives, right? And so we want to live full lives. We want to be able to overcome and do hard things and get better at doing hard things by doing it. And that's all going to happen upstairs. The food can't do that.
Right. I think to some extent it helps, but you're right. It's not 100%. Like I know since going carnivore, that's my cravings for the junk, that it did help with that. But yeah, the eating when I'm bored and all of that, that's still there sometimes. Like the mental thing, or like I come home from work and it's like part of relaxing, right? Because that was my thing. Yep. So I try to help myself and make that my big meal anyway. So it's like I come home from work, that's when I'm going to have my ribeye and I make that time when that's when I'm going to have my big meal. So that helps, because I found if I try to do that earlier, I still want to eat again when I come home, because it's so much like habit, or like it's comfortable. Like, okay, I'm done working for the day. I'm going to have this thing of food and like sit down and relax. It's all part of that. So rather than retrain myself to not want to do that, it's like, okay, well then let's just make that time of day when I'm gonna, have my big meal. I try to eat twice a day.
I love that. I love that. It's like, okay, I'm noticing that this is a natural thing. Let's make it a meal, right? Because that where people go wrong is when they just start snacking and then they have their meal and now it's all this excess. And all over the chat rooms, all I see is, what do I do about this craving? What do I do about this? What do I do about that? And I've even seen women ask in carnivore groups, I'm trying to change my habits. I notice I eat when I'm stressed, whatever, insert whatever emotion, right? I'm looking for ways that I can handle this without food. What do you suggest? And then all the comments are littered with, eat this, eat that, make brown butter bites, make this, make that. Asking for help getting away from turning to food, and the advice is to turn to food. Yeah. And that's usually, those habits are still there when we change our diet. So it may not be that you're reaching for a Snickers bar, but now you're reaching for a stick of butter. Well, it's not actually helping move you in the right direction. So we can eat all the right things, but if we don't address the habits, and the habits, they come from up here.
Yeah, one of the things I like to do is go take a bath. So that's like my favorite. I try not to look at my gas bill too much to heat up all that water. But during 2020, when we were all stuck at home, I remodeled my bathrooms and kitchen. And like, that's when I did this office because I had to teach from home. And I was like, well, if I'm going to teach from home, I'm going to make it a space I like.
I like it. Is it a door or a wall behind you?
It's a door. It's a giant, and it's actually from Pennsylvania barn. Like, it was an actual Pennsylvania barn. So it is barn. It's a barn door made of barn wood. It was a splurge. It was a splurge, yeah. So that's when and it's kind of cool now that I'm doing YouTube. It's like I could repurpose this space because clearly I'm not teaching from here anymore. Yeah. Anyways, I got a ginormous bathtub, like ginormous, in my master bath, and that's like my happy place. So yeah, Jujubee is saying I do that too with Epsom salts. Yes, Jujubee. Yes, Epsom salt's one of my favorites. So I
salt baths, that has gotten me through my competing career.
I bet with the sore muscles or
oh my gosh, it's always been a must-have. Every condo apartment I've ever lived in, it has to have a soaking tub. That is a requirement.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things for sure. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about like stress, sleep, and hormones. I mean, I know that might take the rest of the time. You could break that down any way you want, Coach Nat.
Oh boy, oh boy. Okay, so sleep, let's just start with sleep. Everything, you could have everything else in line. You could be doing the perfect training program, the perfect macros, the perfect food selection, everything on point. If you're not sleeping, your body's not happy. It's not in homeostasis. It is in a stressed state. So sleep and stress are intimately connected. The hormones are connected with that as well. But that sleep is imperative. So whenever I have a lady, let's say on a fat loss phase, and I'm not losing, and we cut my calories, you know, she's doing cardio, whatever, we're throwing everything at it, and she tells me she's not sleeping well. We need to forget everything else for now. We're not forgetting everything else. Still do the things, but you've got to drop all and figure out what you need to do to get your sleep on point. Because if you're not sleeping, your body's not recovering. It doesn't feel safe, and that fat is not going to come off. So sleep is paramount. And we know that, gosh, this age of women that we're talking about, sleep can be a real challenge. We start to have sleep changes, especially with perimenopause and menopause with hormonal changes, right? It could be waking up in the middle of the night. It could be difficulties getting to sleep at night. So it's still very individual, unique to the individual about what their particular sleep issue might be. And we have a million things we can try to improve sleep. We could get into some of that. But basically the gist is, if you're not sleeping, your body is not healthy. It's not feeling healthy. And so the systems of your body are not going to function optimally. So sleep absolutely has to be a priority.
Yeah. If I'm going to have any sleep problems, it's the one you said about waking up. Like, it happens so much less now. I'm not going to say that it never happens, but yeah, I was that person that would wake up at like 1 or 2 in the morning, somewhere in there, and just feel wide awake. But then when it was time to actually do something, like you're ready for work, now I'm exhausted, right? That was me like every night. Still happens occasionally, but it's a lot less than it used to.
Was that before you went carnivore?
Yeah, before I went carnivore, even when I was still keto. So when I went keto, I initially lost that 20 pounds, you know, the 20 pounds that 15 to 20 pounds that I just came back. But I had no other benefits noticeably. I didn't even know there were other benefits because I initially started it for weight loss. And then I just sort of didn't feel like making vegetables, and I kind of accidentally went carnivore. And then it was like, I'm like not anxious anymore, and feel like sprinting, and I am sleeping better. And it's like, I think I'll stick with this, you know, it's working for me right now. So that's when I sort of got all the other, you know, the side benefits. And then I started putting on the weight, but I think it's, you know, like we already talked about that, but I think it's just because my body is, you know, healing that way. Okay. So that was sleep. So what about stress and hormones?
Okay. So stress, managing stress, right? this kind of goes similar to what we were talking about with this keto carnivore will solve everything, right? We always talk about stress like it's this short-term thing. But the truth is, everybody's stressed all the time, right? If I had $1 for every client who ever put in a check-in, oh, it was a stressful week. It's always a stressful week. It's always going to be a stressful week. It's going to be a stressful month. We're never going to live in today's society, and really never. The cavemen didn't live without stress either. We're never going to live without stress. So the more important thing is, how are you managing the stress? One thing that I will say, similar to what you mentioned about the cravings, right? We do see physiological changes when we go carnivore, when we cut out the crap, that benefit our mental health as well as our physical health. So just like the cravings, that's a physiological change that we do see the cravings diminish when we're not eating this stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. So similarly, when we change our lifestyle like this, a lot of the check-ins, women are reporting, wow, this happened at work, or this happened with this family trip. And normally I would be biting everybody's heads off. But this time I noticed I was much more even keel and I handled it much better. And that's something you could miss if you're not really tuning in to your body's biofeedback. And that's what I ask my ladies to check in with every weekend is, okay, what's your biofeedback? Let's look at mood, energy, hunger, libido, digestion. We look at all of these different things. And so this concept of rating your mood, it gets them to notice, wow, I really am noticing that I handle stressful situations better. So I do think that the nutrition is a big piece of that. Fitness is also a big piece of that. When we're fit, when we're moving our bodies in a healthy way, we're also improving our mental health as well. So these things absolutely directly positively impact our mental state and our ability to handle stress. That's what we're doing when we're working out, is we're creating stress. And so we're teaching our body how to handle stress better, and adapt to that. Because once again, our body's an adaptive machine. It always wants to adapt. So some of that is happening with what we're doing with our nutrition and our fitness anyway. So we can all give ourselves a huge round of applause for that and acknowledge ourselves for that. But the other piece of it is, how are you taking care of your mental health? Because probably for a quick bite-sized takeaway, for anyone who does not already have some sort of a spiritual or personal reflection practice, even 5 minutes a day of whether it's meditation, prayer, just silent self-reflection, journaling, breathing, breath work, something like that. That's how I started. Before I had a minute in my day, when I was running out the door because I was always late to work, and then I was in the commute, and then I was working 10 hours a day, and then it was like there's no time to stop or think. I started giving myself the beginning of my day for me, and it changed the game. This was 2 or 3 years before I actually left my job, when I identified that I wanted to change my life. And it was, you know what? I keep giving myself away to everybody else all day. Hello, women. What do we do all day, right? We have nothing left for ourselves at night. And this is also usually what drives nighttime eating. And it drives turning to food in stressful situations, because we don't know how to be with ourselves and whatever we might be feeling, good, bad, or indifferent. So when you can practice that with a 5-minute-a-day practice, that's not making you stop in the middle of a situation, but you're just basically you're building up you have the training wheels. That's like your training wheels, this 5-minute meditation. And I do it in the morning. I set my Apple Breathe app, and it'll do the little pulses for my breath, and I just breathe. And I have a devotional I read every day, and sometimes I'll journal if I'm feeling called to journal. But the main thing is being with myself and whatever might come up. There could be emotions that are hidden under the surface because we're not allowing those things to come up. We're just always pushing them away, pushing them down, because we have other things to deal with. So that is what I would encourage for anyone who doesn't already do that. And then from there, you can start to move into practicing, learning, identifying what's coming up. What are your thoughts throughout the day? Observing your thoughts. There's a book I love to recommend by, I think it's Michael Singer, and it's The Untethered Soul. And he talks about being the observer of your thoughts and learning to become the observer of your thoughts, that you're not the one thinking the thoughts. You can actually hear the thoughts. And until we are encouraged, like you said, we didn't grow up with this stuff. Mm-hmm. We actually were encouraged to shut up, stop crying, get over it. Right?
I'll give you something to cry about. Stop crying. I'll give you something to cry about. That's what my dad used to say to me. He was a great dad. I'm just saying that was our generation. That's how a lot of us grew up.
Especially the men. Maybe mom would hug you at least and let you cry it out. Dad's like, all right, enough of that. Okay, move on. And it was this energy of, it's not okay to have emotions. It's not okay to feel our feelings. Stuff it down. And what did we do? We started stuffing it down with food. So another bite-sized takeaway, when you're feeling that stress in the moment and you feel like going for the food, this is a moment to say, pause. I need to interrupt the pattern. How we change habits is we have to interrupt the pattern. And usually it's so automatic, we just go to the food and we don't think about it until later. So I like this first step, same idea of not having to try to do it in the moment when you've never done it in the moment before, but do a post-mortem. When you notice, oh, I turned to food again. Darn it, turn to food again, what's wrong with me? Instead, take a moment after you do it and then say, all right, what happened? Let's do a post-mortem. Just like at work, so many of us do this. We have something happen and then we all sit down and we meet about it and we talk about what happened so we can improve and handle it better next time, right? Maybe you didn't handle it in a way that makes you proud of this time. You turned to food again, or you skipped your workout or whatever it might be. Sit down with yourself and say, all right, what was the situation? How was I feeling? What was going on around me? What could I do next time? What do I wish I would have done this time? And then that just starts to bring it a little bit front of mind. This is all this limbic brain back here that's driving us to do these things on autopilot. So we have to start bringing it into the prefrontal cortex. Bring it into the logical, real brain up in the front, right? Think about it and make yourself a plan for next time. That's another part of our check-ins that we do. I ask for an action plan every week. They have to assess. We just actually updated the check-in form and added a question about adherence. How well did you adhere to your plan this week? Give yourself a rating. And then how easy or difficult was it to adhere to that plan? Give yourself a rating. This helps a little bit with that self-judgment. Maybe you didn't adhere very well, but maybe it was an impossible week. So give yourself a little grace there, but let's look at that. And then after that, okay, what's your action plan for next week? So we're not just leaving it there. Just tell coach what happened and then leave it there. Okay, what happened this week? What's coming up next week that could derail me again? How am I going to address it next time? And just that simple fact of creating that plan means it's less likely you're going to forget the plan later. And it works best if you create one plan for one thing and not, here's my 10-point list of all the things I'm going to do better this week. Because then you'll just forget all of them.
Yeah. No, I like that you said that. So I had a question for you, and I think you sort of halfway answered it there, but it's like how to overcome that. I think it's like the lizard brain. That's just like, I really don't want to work out. Like it's almost visceral. Like it's not because you want to work out, right? But you're just like, but I don't want to. And sometimes it's so hard to overcome that. So is basically everything you just said, is that how you would address that? Because sometimes it's like, it's just that gut, like, I don't want to do it.
I would say the difference between people who have the most incredible transformations and those that don't is the willingness to have the conversation. It's that willingness, instead of just hearing that and then obeying, I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to go. Okay, let's talk about this. What is the rest of the sentence? I don't feel like working out. There's something else there that limbic brain is telling you. There's a argument it's making. I don't feel like it. So it's okay if I just skip this one time. That's usually like the rest of it, right? The rest of that sentence is usually something like, it's not going to make that big of a difference if I just don't do it this time. And then you can have the conversation. Well, is it really? Because if I don't do it this time, how much more likely am I going to feel like doing it tomorrow? If I don't do it today, I know I'm not going to feel like doing it tomorrow. And then it's going to become 7 days of not doing it. And then it's going to become 2 weeks of not doing it. And then it'll be 3 months of not doing it. And then I'll be in a place I don't want to be. So if we are just willing to have that conversation and not just let it direct us, because that limbic brain is going to try to throw everything at you when you're creating a new habit. And one of the things that can kind of help us give ourselves a little more grace is it's not going to be automatic for you to do the new habit until you've been doing the new habit more than you did the old habit. So if we're in our 40s, 50s, 60s, how many years were we not doing this habit? So this whole I should feel like doing it is total BS. It's another way of us judging ourselves, feeling worse, and then not doing it. It's all part of this argument in the limbic brain. When we can say, yeah, you know what? Of course I don't feel like doing this. I haven't been doing it every day for 10 years. Once I have, then maybe I'll start feeling like doing it. But I will let you all know right now, I don't always feel like doing it. And I've been doing this for 8, maybe 9 years now, consistently. I don't feel like doing it. It's not sometimes I do, but a lot of the time I really don't. So it's just that having that conversation.
Yeah. So Juliana's talking about her inner dialogue. She said, or I'm sorry, Jujubee saying Juliana loves to take 2 or 3 mile walks, but I can't go because my shoes are upstairs and upstairs is so far away. That's a huge inner dialogue. Yeah, mine is, but my weights are in the cupboard and they're heavy and I got to pull them out.
Right. I got to pick up the heavy weights so I can pick up the heavy weight.
Right.
It's so true.
Funny.
These are the tricks it will try to play on us. And it's really ridiculous when we can really lean into it, we can just laugh at it because it doesn't make any logical sense.
Right.
But when we allow ourselves become emotional by it, we're not thinking logically. We can't think emotionally and logically at the same time. So I like that, this grounding of like, okay, if you ever find yourself, here's the other thing. My big mantra these days, I've been saying it all the time in the academy. Overwhelm is a choice. Because most of the time we start feeling overwhelmed and then we don't do anything. But if we can ground ourselves, touch your body. How am I feeling in my body? It's a technique, somatic experiencing. What am I feeling in my body? We can get out of our head. Another one I love, I think it's a therapy technique, and I don't remember what kind. I learned it from a therapist. But what am I seeing in the room? Zero in on something you're seeing in the room physically and describe it to yourself. This box, it looks like zebra print. It's gold and white. It's a square. It has black in the middle. It has words on it. Anything you can do to describe something in your space, it gets your brain out of that emotional place and into the real physical world. And the same thing we can do with our bodies. I notice I'm cold. I notice my fingers feel cold on my arm when I touch my arm. I feel my feet on the ground. It's just getting you out of that, out of your head and into your body, essentially. If anybody who's done yoga, they always talk about that, getting into your body. I used to be really bothered by that. I was like, what do they mean, drop into your body? I never understood what that meant. And that's all that means, is you get out of here and you get into the here and now. And then, okay, it helps you ground, get out of that overwhelm and that anxiety. And then, okay, with all these things that are making me overwhelmed, what's the one thing I could do right now? What's to become more doable?
Yeah, that's a great strategy, because we were talking before the show and I'm a morning person. So I know I got to do it in the morning, but then it's like that limbic brain, I call it the lizard brain, but I know that's not the real name for it. Okay. Anyways, yeah, this is
lizard brain.
Yeah. This is my last half an hour before I have to actually do something. So wouldn't it be nicer to just keep relaxing? Because I am like you. That time for myself is in the morning because nobody else is a morning person. So it's quiet. There's no demands on me. I've got 2 children and a husband, and then I go to work and I've got, my own 28 students, always wanting stuff all day long. And so that's like my time. And I always make time above and beyond my workout time to just kind of sit with myself, and so on. I think I breathing. I like that idea. I might start doing some breathing, but anyway, but then, yeah, when it's time to get up and work out, it's like, oh, but you only have this last half an hour, before you got to start all the hard stuff. So just relax.
It's a challenge for you, because for a long time I was doing exactly that. I would make my coffee first, then I'd sit and have my coffee while I had my me time. I still do that, but I switched it. Now I do my morning walk because I do train later, but my morning movement every morning, first thing, get up, brush my teeth, put on clothes, go upstairs and do my morning movement. So now my coffee and my meditation time is after that.
Okay.
And it is so powerful when you do it that way, because now that time where you're kind of, sluggish in the morning, just kind of the brain isn't fully turned on yet, you're doing that while you're doing your movement, which you don't need to use your brain for anything else at that time. And then when you sit down and have that time for you, there's this catharsis because you just did your workout and the brain is turned on. So now you're having all kinds of things come up potentially, or you're just really enjoying that relaxing time after your workout. So I'll tell you, that's a little challenge I might give you to try.
Okay.
And see what you think about it. There's a book. I don't remember if it's the Miracle Morning or the 5 a.m. Club. It was one of those books. I think it was the Cal Newport one, where he had this, it was a Miracle Morning, I think. And it was SAVERS was the acronym. And it was scribing. Oh gosh, I don't remember now the order, but the order of it was the activity came before the journaling and meditation part of it. So it's this moving your body, and now it's putting you into this state of receiving. So it's really cool and it's powerful, and I think you could really enjoy that, because then too, if you're not going to feel like working out either way, but when you first wake up and you're like, I want to have my normal routine with my coffee, you're like, oh, I get to look forward to that after the workout.
Yes. And that's one thing I was thinking. So it makes it like something to still look forward to, instead of, oh, I'm like wrapping up the nice time now and it's a bummer. So it's like the other way around. I like that. But also, before you have time to argue yourself out of it.
Yes, like the Mel Robbins thing.
Get up and get the weights out of the cupboard before you talk yourself out of it, before you're fully awake enough to argue with yourself and talk your own self out of it. I think I'll give that a try. I like that.
Yeah.
So do you have any, I mean, this wasn't like a question, but do you have any advice for this? So morning coffee, I can't have without sugar. And normally when I indulge in that, I lose my ability to stick with carnivore. It all begins there for me. I totally resonate with like starting off on the wrong foot and then you're just kind of off track for the day. I've had, plenty of days like that in the past.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when I first started my whole journey, dairy was the first thing that I stopped eating. And I started out doing it as a Lenten sacrifice because I could not stick to a diet just for diet's sake back then. It was like, good luck. I'm an eater. So I was like, okay, for Lent, I'm going to try giving up dairy, because I had suspected for a long time that dairy gave me problems. I could not have coffee without cream and sugar. And I wasn't trying to cut the sugar. I was just trying to cut the cream. And so I stopped drinking coffee. So the short answer would be, maybe you just stop drinking coffee for a little while. After I did that for quite some time, and honestly, I think that probably had a lot to do with the benefits I got early on. I think it was cutting the coffee as well. Then you can play with bringing it back with different things, because you will adjust your taste buds. Your taste buds will completely change if you take out anything sweet. I like to do, for any of my ladies who struggle with giving up anything sweet, rip the Band-Aid off and give yourself a 4-day challenge, just 4 days, because it tells your brain kind of goes, I can do anything for 4 days. That's like nothing. So all I have to do is get through day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And you will find that if you don't put a single sweet taste in your mouth at all from anything sweet for 4 days, those cravings, they may not be fully eliminated, but they will be so severely reduced that day 5 will become so much easier. And then you just extend from there, however many more days. And then if and when you do introduce anything back in that has that sweet taste, it tastes 10 times sweeter to you, and you're turned off by it a little bit more. So I would probably rip the Band-Aid off. If you can't do the coffee without your sugar for now, just don't do the coffee for now. And then when you're ready to bring it back in, bring it back and try it with a cream or a creamer. If you're not doing, like, I still don't do dairy, so I'll do like a coconut cream without the sweetener. And at that point, you can probably handle it better than you can now.
It's crazy, like you said, how much sweeter sweet things taste. So my son, about, I don't even know anymore, 6 weeks ago, he went, I'd say, ketovore, from standard American to ketovore to try to help his ADHD. I don't know if you saw that at all on my channel, Coach Nat, but oh my gosh, the benefits that he's gotten. I can't believe. I just can't believe. And I know this isn't the time or place for that, but go watch. I interviewed him on my channel. Like, he's just doing
That's a huge
fantastic. Wow. But he doesn't have a weight problem. If anything, it's maybe a little under, although the doctor doesn't say so, but everyone's like, that boy needs to gain weight. And I'm like, I think all you are used to seeing like the overweight children, which is so sad, but almost everyone tells me he needs to gain weight. I'm like, not according to the pediatrician. Wow. But anyways, he is quite thin. So weight is not an issue, right? So I will say I didn't like take out the dairy because he enjoys milk. I just switched to whole milk, that kind of thing. When we were discussing it, he said, it's going to be the hardest thing to give up my ice cream. And so, I'll make him like some whipped cream sometimes or that kind of thing. Anyways, my point is I do still use some, some sweetener in there for him, like not sugar, but, non-nutritive sweetener of some kind. Anyways, but yeah, so I made him some whipped cream and I wanted to see and I was like, oh my gosh, it was so sweet to me because I took a little taste of it and it was like painfully sweet, if that makes sense. Whereas he is still eating those things and to him, he thought it was good, but yeah, it was crazy. I was like, whoa, that is like, it like hurt my head. It was so sweet. I was like, that is, whoa.
Fruit, like if you eat a strawberry after being carnivore for however long, it tastes incredibly sweet. And people, I've never was the person who put sugar on my strawberries, but there were people who couldn't eat strawberries without adding sugar. And then eat a strawberry and it tastes like the sweetest thing in the world. Your taste buds absolutely will adapt. I used to at least keep like stevia and monk fruit around. And I probably still have a little bottle of the liquid ones. I make it a point not to ever use the granulated stuff because they all are adding erythritol or allulose or something like that is not friendly to the gut. And it is, it can also keep the cravings alive. It can give you headaches. Everybody gets different reactions to different types of non-nutritive sweeteners. But I still have like a stevia or a monk fruit up there, the pure extract, but I never use it for anything anymore. The only thing that's sweet that I consume is my protein powder because that is used. They use stevia when they make that. That tastes sweet. That tastes really sweet. So I no longer need to add any of those sweetness to anything for myself anymore.
Yeah.
It's over the top.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I just took a little taste to see if I got it because I don't measure stuff. Like when I cook, I just throw some stuff in a bowl. But anyways, and I was like, okay, is that sweet enough? And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so sweet. It was crazy. I wonder if this summer, if I tasted a strawberry, I'm curious, maybe I'll try it. I'm carnivore, but like, I want to try that experiment and just see, because I was in the club back in the day of, I would eat them without sugar, but they didn't taste super sweet to me. Like I can remember that taste. Yeah. It would be interesting, to see. So David is here and he says, ditto on your Lent statement. During this whole Lent, I was able to do some really good fasting on Fridays, OMAD, focusing primarily on eggs and some salmon or sardines.
That is my go-to. It's too funny. I'm actually preparing to do a post about what I eat on Meatless Fridays for Lent. Look, admittedly, there have been a couple of weeks where I completely forgot it was Friday. And then I'm like, oh no, it's Friday. And then I course corrected in the middle of the day. But just yesterday, it was my favorite eggs. I do my scrambled eggs every day. Usually I'll do them with ground lamb or ground beef or some meat. But it's salmon. I love to do salmon with my eggs. I love smoked salmon, sardines. Sometimes I'll do like a tuna salad of some sort. What did I do yesterday? What was the other thing I did yesterday? Smoked salmon. Oh, mahi for dinner. So yeah, the fish and the eggs. We can totally make it work.
Yeah, I that's not part of my, like, we don't do Lent. But yeah, a fish, that's how I feel about fish. I don't like it, but I know it's good for me in some respects with the omega-3s. And I am attempting to throw in, like, I'll bring a can of salmon, to work with me, but I'll be honest, I choke it down. Like, I don't enjoy it. I'm like, bleh, 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 the whole time.
Well, but here's how I make mine that might make you enjoy it more. I do use avocado mayo.
Okay.
Primal Kitchen or Chosen Foods, one of those.
Yeah.
And then mustard. There's a stone ground mustard at Sprouts that I'm now obsessed with. Usually I would do like a Dijon. And then garlic and dill. Those two flavors together create like a ranch, like a faux ranch. Yay!
And it's a party. Sweet.
So whenever I do like a tuna salad or a salmon salad from the cans, I will always do like a garlic dill mix, and then it makes it taste really yummy. But I do love salmon in all forms, smoked, cooked, canned, whatever. The other forms of fish, here's the thing, like the mahi last night, right? Whitefish, I never look forward to it, but then when I make it, it tastes really good and I enjoy it. And when I'm eating it, I love it, but it's never like the thing I'm looking forward to. I much rather, I'm looking forward to a burger or a steak or lamb or my scrambled eggs, but I never look forward to the fish. It's so funny.
Yeah. David says, haha, yeah, last Friday I forgot and had a little bacon for breakfast and I remembered it was Friday. I retired a couple of years ago, so lots of times I have no idea what day it is. That's how teachers feel during summer vacation. Wait, what day is it? It's like the best. It's the best part when you forget what day it is. That's so funny.
I definitely feel that.
Well, I just want to thank you, Coach Nat, for coming on and having this conversation with me. I feel like it's not done, but it's been well over an hour. I hope maybe you can come back. I'll definitely shoot you an email. Maybe we can have a part 2, or you can come on Lioness Lifestyle and be with us Lionesses. That would be fun too. So hopefully we can do that. Let me know. But thank you everyone for watching, for joining us today. This was a fantastic talk. I learned a lot. I'm going to work out before I do my my quiet time, and I'll let you know how that goes. So thank you for that suggestion.
I'm happy to be on again anytime. I'd love to be on the Lioness Lifestyle.
Awesome. I'll shoot you a link. All right, everybody. Thanks again, and thanks, Coach Nat, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace out.